Hey everyone, so we are on our last addition property. If you're following along in McGraw-Hill, we are in lesson 7 of chapter 5. I did 3 different videos for this lesson just to break it up because there are 3 different properties we're working with. You've seen commutative, you've seen associative, and now we're working with identity. This is the easiest one, and I hope it makes sense to you. So, identity property states that anything plus a 0 is itself. Do you guys agree? I hope you do. Let me prove it to you. What's 1 plus a 0? Is it itself? Is it just 1? Yes. What's 40 plus a 0? 40. What's 2.78 plus 0? 2 and 78/100ths. What's 99.9 plus 0? 99 and 9/10. So, essentially, anything added to a 0 will give it itself. This 1 is itself. This 40 was itself. This 2 and 78/100ths was itself because you're adding nothing to it. A 0 is 0. It's nothing. There's no value. It's worth 0. Nothing. So if you're adding any number plus 0, you're going to go ahead and get itself as its answer. And that, in a nutshell, is identity property. Please be sure you check out the other 2 examples working with commutative and associative. But before I end this video, I'm going to show you an equation, and we're going to now identify all 3 properties being used in one equation, because the book is going to ask you to do that. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, at least in with previous students of mine. It kind of is confusing. So let me do it step by step. Okay, so let's say we have the following equation, okay? Let's say we have a 1 and 8/10 plus 2 and 6/10 plus 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to show each step using all 3 of the addition properties. So let's start with the first one, which is commutative. Commutative property means that if I switch the order, I should still get the same answer. So if I switch the order, I could do 2.6 plus 1.8 plus 0. And what they're going to ask you to do is identify, what did you just do to the numbers? What addition property did you just do? Well, we just switched the order, so I'm going to write down that we just did the commutative property, and I'm going to abbreviate. Okay? Now let's show the associative property. Associative property means that you are grouping 2 numbers, and just because you group 2 numbers doesn't mean the answer is going to change. It's going to stay the same. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to group 2 different sets. So let me show you what that means. So let's say I first group 2.6 and 1.8. Then I'm going to rewrite it grouping 2 other ones. What if I did 2.6 plus parentheses 1.8 plus 0? So see how my grouping changed? So what we did is we just used the associative property. Now, what we need to do is show our last one, which is identity. So now we actually need to add. So let's go ahead and add. So a 1 and 8/10 plus a 0. We're actually going to go ahead and let's leave that like this. And let's add our 2 and 6/10 plus 1 and 8/10 first. So when we add decimals, we line up the decimal, and then make sure you bring it down in its spot, and now we add. So 8 plus 6 is 14. Our decimal was moved down. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So these 2 numbers added together is 4 and 4/10 plus 0. Oh, we're stuck with 2 numbers. A 4 and 4/10 plus a 0, that's where we see the identity property. So identity property is adding 1 number to a 0, and that gives it itself. We know the answer. This is the identity property, stating that anything plus 0 will be itself, and so we need to write down that we just use the identity property. Okay? So let's review what we just did. We took an equation, and they'll give you an equation in your book, and they want you to switch the order and do commutative, group 2 different numbers and show the associative, And then if there's a 0 in the equation, show the identity property all the way at the end by adding it plus 0 and showing that you still get the same number, and then writing down that is the identity property. So that's what it's going to ask you to do in your book. So please refer back to this if you need help, and I hope that helps you guys with whatever you're working on.